everyone. This is Inside the TMC family. I'm Faith Howard Mooney, the SVP of Member Engagement here at the Mortgage Collaborative. And today I have with me Stuart Crawford from Bison Ventures. Stuart, thank you for doing this with me today.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking me to do it. Hopefully I don't disappoint, but there's no promises.
You won't disappoint. You never do. You never do. And we've had the opportunity of doing a couple of things together. So you happen to be a really good resource of mine within the industry when I need something. But today we're going to learn more about you personally. So share with me what your first job that you ever had was.
My first job ever? Ooh, okay. Well, it's not very glamorous. I was 14 and was a busboy at a seafood restaurant. And I all I remember is not liking it. I remember I spilt like a big thing of iced tea, and I didn't last very long. I think I literally had that job for 6 weeks. And in my defense, I honestly think they figured out I was 14 and they probably it was illegal. And so we parted ways, So that was the very first actual job I had, other than mowing the lawn for my dad, every Saturday.
Yep. And having done this with a number of people, I always say that your first job usually is either meant to show you what you don't want to do and motivate you to do something different, or people
Yep.
sometimes randomly land in whatever their passion is. So not surprising, not surprising. Share with me now how did you end up in mortgage?
Oh, so that's always the $1 million question, right? We all know the joke. None of us were 6 years old and raised our hand at job day and said, "I want to be a mortgage person,"
That's
because that
true.
would just be crazy. So the fastest version is I was a senior in college and needed to get a part-time job. I was getting a finance degree, and I just thought, I'm going to open up the school paper, figure out which job is kind of like finance and business to just check the box and works with my class schedule, right? So this is 2001, and I found an ad for some place that needed an ALO, an assistant loan officer. I had no idea what that was, and they needed someone to help make calls and et cetera, et cetera. And it literally, I was like, okay, that looks good enough. Let's go interview and see if that works. So it ended up being basically like a call center, a small one. There's probably 15 of us. And we got lead sheets. So this is kind of like that first refi boom that was bubbling up in 01, 02. And literally they gave us scripts. They gave us these lead sheets. And I just remember sitting in my cubicle and I would just call, scratch them off, read my scripts. And my job was essentially to convince whoever was on the phone that they likely are a candidate for a refinance and should come into the office and meet with one of our loan officers. So it's
Okay.
almost like a pre-sale thing, like vetting people and seeing if I can get them to set up appointments. So that's how I got in. The interesting thing is, this whole time, then I graduate, I still have the job because I just was used to doing it, and I was relatively getting a knack for it, I guess I would say. And this whole time I'm looking for my real job, right? And I'm interviewing at other places, totally different industries, that are in sales and business. And eventually, another person approached me and said, "Hey, I'm going to go build a call center. Why don't you come help me build it?" And I said, "Okay, let's go do that." Again, I'm just thinking this is my interim before I find the real job. And so I helped this guy build a call center, super small, like 6 or 7 callers. And eventually that led into, he's like, "Well, why don't you come work at this mortgage company and we'll teach you how to be a loan officer?" And I said, "Okay, that sounds good." Still looking for my real job. And so I take that job, and probably within 6 months, I decided it wasn't for me. My manager was a yes man. I felt like, remember, these are the days of the negative AMs, and everybody got a
Oh
loan,
yeah.
and zero down, all those things, no FICO score. And it was like every time I asked, "Can we do this? Can we do that?" I was like, "Oh yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out." And just eventually, I just got this weird feeling that it just wasn't that professional. I didn't like it, so I quit. And I remember telling my dad, I said, "Oh man, the mortgage industry is so slimy. Like, this is not what I want to do. Like, I really need to put the pedal to the metal on finding the real job, right?" So, I start interviewing at different industries. Back to the same deal. And then a friend of a friend who owned a recruiting company said to me, he said, "Hey, you need to go take this interview at this company." And I said, "Okay, well, what is it?" And he goes, "It's mortgages." And I said, "I'm not going to do it." And he goes, "Well, why?" And I told him the story. I go, "I don't want anything to do with the mortgage industry." And he goes, "You need to trust me. This is different. I have a friend that works there. He loves it. It's like a family." And I just kept telling him, "No, I don't want to do it." And he wouldn't leave it alone. He goes, "Stuart, just do it for me and go do an interview." I'm like, "Okay, fine." So I go to my interview, and I'll never forget, and this is maybe a good tip for everybody out there that's hiring people. I'll never forget that this guy takes me to lunch, and I really liked him. Professional. We had a great conversation. And I remember leaving and talking to my dad, and he goes, "How'd it go?" And I go, "Well, it was good." I go, "But it was kind of weird." I go, "We didn't even talk about mortgages." I go, "Literally, all he did was ask me about my family, my background, what I like to do." I'm like, so it was kind of odd. And I, of course, didn't really have much experience in interviews and, what I should or shouldn't say kind of deal. Um, and he's like, "Well, that actually sounds like maybe a place you might want to be." So anyway, long story short, they ended up putting me through 6 interviews because that was their corporate process. So
Okay.
that told me, okay, this is different. This is not just you have a heartbeat and here's a rate sheet and some business cards. And I went through all these different interviews, and to the point where like I started getting nervous. And the last one's like, "Oh my gosh, like am I even going to get this job?" So, and they had a great training program. This was when Zenix, as you know, the Mortgage Academy. This is when they were first starting. So I got the job. Ended up they shipped me off to Zenix for 4 weeks. I lived in Atlanta and did the training, and I guess rest is history from there. But I tried not to be in mortgages, but here I am.
I think it's funny that you would go back and say, I was still looking for my real job, where it's very evident that probably anybody that knows you knows that you've this is your home and this is your spot. So I think that's very funny. Is there one thing back in like those early days that I mean, it sounds like that you understood that you weren't in the right spot originally, but say when you got into that job, that then you kind of knew this is different and you knew that you found out or that you knew, that you didn't know then, but now it's like super clear to you that you just wish that somebody would have said, "Hey, knowing this would help you in your career."
Well, that's a really good question. Yeah, there is. There is one thing that I'll admit. I think that I even more recently in my career. I mean, I've been doing this 20 plus years. Have I don't want to say figured out, but that I've tapped into and said, "Oh, this is good," and I should have done this, 5 6 years ago. And this is what I would tell my younger self: don't stay in the swim lane of just trying to meet with people that are only in your industry, right? Because when you're growing up in the business, we'll call it, you're calling on realtors, you're calling on builders. I mean, everybody you're calling on is within your sphere of your industry, which makes perfect sense, right? I mean, that's the fastest path to getting clients and building a book. But I would tell someone young, and I do tell our people here now, I go, meet with everybody you can. If somebody's a business owner of X, or if somebody you just like, or whatever, don't limit yourself to just this, this one silo, because I'm a big believer, and I've seen it come true for myself to some degree and for a lot of people around me, that the more, it sounds simple, right? The more people you talk to, the more people you network with, the more friends you make, and all of that synergizes and creates this ecosystem that you never know what's going to come out of it, right? I mean, I could be talking to you and you're not even in the industry, and hopefully you liked our conversation and you think I'm a good person and you can trust me. And next thing I know, a year later, you're randomly calling me and saying, "Hey, by the way, well, my aunt needs to refinance, so I thought of you," right? So there's that part, and then there's the more 30,000 side of it, which is, "Hey, Stuart, I was just talking to this guy. He's in the mortgage business, and he's got a similar story to you, and you guys should meet up." It's like there's the connections are literally endless, and that's something I try to press on our team here. Is I'm like, guys, don't go find other people to talk to. Like, I'm not telling you to not go talk to realtors, right? You have to do that. You don't have to, but that's key. So that's definitely what I tell my younger self. I honestly think if I would have done that in the beginning, I would have had double, triple the size of the personal production that I had at my peak before I, turned in my spurs and did something else.
I think that's great advice for people that are coming in. It's like you just don't really ever know where someone else that you meet, where that could take you and who they know, right? So I think that's
Exactly.
absolutely great advice. If you weren't in mortgage, what would you be doing?
Well, I've thought about this, right, Faith? I mean, come on.
Everybody
20
has.
years in the mortgage
Everyone
business, there's
has.
been a few times where I'm like, really? Is this it? I think if I could, my dream job, I love talking to people. I love hearing about people's stories. I love hearing, I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm old school, maybe simple. I love like where you're from, how'd you get from A to B, where are you going, how are you going to get from B to C, and I just love talking to people and hearing where people are from and the things that make them tick, and I just think it's interesting. And I would say, you know what, if I could have Howard Stern's job, that would be epic, right? I want to sit in a studio and have cool people come in every day and talk to them and grill them and laugh with them. That's what I would do if I could.
Oh my gosh, that is the greatest answer. That is the greatest answer. So I know your dad. Obviously, you have a life outside of work, or at least we all try to at some point. What is your favorite activity that you do personally, not related to work?
Boy, another good one. I'm kind of boring. Like I'm not a guy that has like a hobby. I guess I maybe should. I don't know, but this is going to sound back to what I just said. I mean, honestly, my favorite thing to do is to hang out with the people that I love and that make me laugh and that I can just have a good time with, and we can talk everything from business to life to being a parent to. So honestly, I guess my favorite thing is I love having barbecues in my backyard and inviting people over and just sitting around talking, drinking beers, hanging out. I mean, that's just sort of what I love to do.
That is fabulous. That is fabulous. I think that's always the greatest goal. Surround yourself by people that you love and that give you that downtime away from what is sometimes a crazy industry that we reside in. You've been with TMC for a while. I remember when you first came into TMC. I remember when we first met at the very first conference that you were at. I've loved having you inside the TMC family, but tell me what you enjoy most about TMC.
Well, I definitely still feel like a rookie TMCer, and I'm still trying to figure myself out in the group. But no, it's been awesome, and my favorite thing is I feel like I'm just saying the same things. I love the networking. When I decided to start a company and we launched Bison, one of the things that was apparent to me is, and I wasn't good at this in my prior life, we'll call it in the mortgage industry. I was very much somebody that just worried about my what was happening in my house, if you will. So I was kind of like in my office doing my thing, dealing with what I needed to deal with. I wasn't necessarily the person going to the mastermind events or going to all of these things that the industry offers, which are great, by the way. Not that I haven't been to them, but it wasn't what made me tick. And where I fell short then and where I'm trying to make up for it now is I really want to surround myself with other leaders. And by the way, when I say leader, to me that doesn't mean you're leading a company or you're some C-suite level.
Right.
Everybody's a leader in their own right, right? I don't care who you are. Like everybody's a leader of whatever they're doing. And I love connecting with people that are like minded and are sharing similar goals and honestly are dealing with we're all in the same storm. We're all taking the same bullets. And so it's kind of fun for me to say, hey, how did you do it? I mean, that's where I'm having the most fun with TMC right now is I'm meeting some of the younger generation of owners that I look up to that maybe jumped off the cliff 5 years before I finally got the cojones to do it. And I love hearing like how did you do it? Like what are you doing now? Like how are you growing? And so I'm already making friends, and I feel like this next TMC might be the first one I've been to where I'll be able to walk in and like know a bunch of people. You know what I mean? So I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But yeah, it's the community, right? I mean, what you guys, and that's what I think you guys are trying to do, and you're pulling it off great. And I've even told other industry peers about TMC that have never heard of it, other owners and leaders that might be interested, and I tell them why I like it. So yeah, that's the deal.
Well, I don't I look at you as a seasoned vet of TMC at this point. So and appreciate that greatly. It has been a lot of fun having you in our TMC family. I'm sure there are many that will watch this that will, may reach out to you too and want to make that connection because that is kind of what we're all about is taking care of our industry, taking care of others, taking care of the people in our TMC family. I always say it's all about the family, and
Well,
didn't know.
it is, and I will add that I don't care about saying it. I mean, our industry, like many, is plagued with a lot of unauthentic people, a lot of people that care about themselves, a lot of people that don't want to open up their playbooks, right? It's very like me, um, and what I love about TMC is I do feel like the way you guys built it, it breaks down those walls, right? It's not because I remember one guy I was talking to here in town that I was going to have invite to come with me. He got that instant like, well, are they our competitors? And you know what I mean? And if we're recruiting each other's people, and I'm like, it's not like that at all. It's literally like we're all in a room going, hey, we're all in the foxhole together. Most of us aren't even in the same markets, and honestly, I wouldn't even care if we were. But I like how you guys have done it that way, so it feels very like it's comfortable. Like no one has to worry about, well, I don't want to tell Faith my secret sauce because she's going to steal it, and then I'm going to lose all my realtors, right? So there's none of that, and that's kudos to you guys not only for building it that way, but for hopefully being somewhat exclusive on who you allow in. Because believe me, there are plenty of mortgage leaders out there that I wouldn't be fans of if they were in TMC. If I'm
Yeah.
being honest, so
Well,
I
we
think you guys do a good job.
I mean, we do ask a lot of questions surrounding culture when we bring somebody in, but it's really not about us and how we built it. It really truly is about you guys and the people that have come in all have that shared sense of responsibility to each other. So it's really more about you guys and less about us. I appreciate you saying that, but it really is about the people in our network and how what they believe and the way they interact with each other. But yeah, we love it that you are part of that. I have loved hearing your story and doing this with you today. And let's plan to do something new or sit down and have a chat while we're in Denver in September.
Sounds good. I'll be there, and maybe next time we do this, maybe I'll interview you. We'll change the game up.
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe that
Come
would be.
on, I need my Howard Stern practice. I got to practice just in case my dreams come true.
I don't want
So,
you to end up in
well,
a different career, so
yeah,
maybe not. Thank you so much.